because you know my
We
version.
met at two separate times. Two separate times. One, when I graduated from Texas Southern and was at Arthur Young in my professional life. And during that time, I met Sonny at a nightclub, and we had a telephone conversations and basically followed up with each other on the phone. Never really had an official date. And we had basically she changed jobs and I lost her phone number because we had dial phones and no mobile phones. So there was about 10 years in between before we met again. And when we met again, it was a really, really interesting experience. And I won't go into all the details of that. But the net effect, bottom line, is we started dating, and we ultimately got married.
So my version of the story is that we met at Faces, Club Faces, and Jody was a regular at Faces. I was a public relations person for Faces back at the time. I worked for him. And Jody would always say hi. I was working at the Houston Chronicle back then. I had given him my work number, not my home number, and we would talk. Well, I left the Chronicle and I didn't give him my new number. 10 years fast forward, and I'm at an event in Baytown. I'm the MC for the NAACP Freedom Fund dinner. And I park, and as I park, El Franco parks right next to me. And who's driving El Franco but Jody? And he gets out of the car, and I say, "Hi, Franco." And then Jody walks around. He looks familiar, but I don't remember his name. And so I asked Franco, "What's his name?" Because he says, "Hey, Sonny, how you doing?" And I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, you kind of brush it off. Anyway, uh, we ended up going to a friend's birthday party the
Mhm.
next day because I found out she was having a party and I didn't know where she lived, and he volunteered. So when we went, that was the beginning of our first date. Our real first date, he took me to a wedding, which I could not believe. I thought I was going to dinner, but we ended up going to a wedding. I was like, what is this brother doing? So it's been an interesting beginning because his idea of dates is a little bit different than my ideas of dates.
First of all, that's a great question. Uh, you know, the most important thing for any couple is to put God in the middle because marriage is like a roller coaster. It has its ups and its downs. And it's also like any organization or anything you do in life. Uh, as you progress, you gain institutional knowledge, you gain the pluses and the minuses, and you get to know each other better, and therefore you develop a style individually and collectively. And the individual style is: do I walk away from this tough situation or this argument, or do I stay here and go back and forth? And over time, you learn to just walk away. That's just one example.
Now, when he says
Of
walk away, he means walk away from the argument, not from the marriage.
yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's just a matter of managing the process. And I never intended for it to be short term. I always intended for it to be long term. And I celebrate. We're going toward 40 years of marriage, and that's a blessing from God.
Yeah. December 21st, we celebrate 39 years of marriage. So we're right there at the 40-year entering. Uh, I think the beginning years for us was a little rough because after getting pregnant with the first child, Jody came to me and said that he wanted to change careers. And as a result, almost immediately, surprise, I was pregnant with the second child. And I was looking at him like, what? You want to do what? And we made an agreement that he would go ahead and try, take the Series 7 and become an investment banker. And we knew the first 5 years were going to be rough. So we made an agreement that I would carry the family for those first 5 years. And then after that, we'd sit down and evaluate, was that a good investment? Turned out to be a good investment. It was a different kind of start financially, but it worked out for us. And I think because we were able to sit down and
Hmm.
talk about what we wanted to do and how we were going to do it. It was interesting though, because when the second baby was, we found out we were pregnant again. We hadn't paid for the first baby yet, so it was a little interesting. And juggling finances was a little tight, but we made it through.
Yeah, absolutely.
How you drove?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you know,
I'm
I
sorry.
I have to go back to I had to learn this, making sure and understanding each other's upbringing, as one would say, because that upbringing is such a reflection on how you operate as a husband and how you operate as a wife. Her mom, her dad, they brought the whole family under the same roof. Her dad would cook. Her dad would go to the grocery store, and I cook. I go to the grocery store. But in terms of the concept of my boys, if if I would have reached the conclusion early on that I stated earlier in this discussion, that her complete family and my not complete family really makes a difference in expectations. That is what I wish I would have known earlier. And I hope that the people looking at this video will understand that, because young people that's dating and thinking about marriage, they really need to look at their background. They need to look at their future wife's background. They need to talk about those life experiences and seek uh, counseling. You know, churches have marriage counseling. We went to engagement encounter. You have to talk through that. That way, as you join hands as a family, as a marriage, you understand it better and you appreciate it better, and you can have a better go forward plan.
I think for me, one of the things I wish someone had told me earlier is that one, you don't have to address every problem when it comes up. Also, don't suppress your feelings. Learn how to express your feelings. I think that was in the beginning of our marriage. I think sometimes I suppressed my feelings in an effort to get along, to go along, kind of thing. And it grew into anger. And I learned later from Tutson that you need to learn to express that and take ownership of your
Yeah,
feelings and why you feel that way. Because oftentimes the other person has no idea you even feel that way. And so you also have to, if you love that person, let them know how you feel in a way that is loving and caring, but also that is how you really feel. And if that means using a cuss word, then use a cuss word. But at the same time, it's in a way that I love you. I care about you. The reason I'm saying this is because it makes me feel this way. And so by taking ownership of my own feelings and expressing it and not suppressing it, I think if someone had told me how to do that, because I don't think it's a question of people knowing what to do, I think it's more of how to do it. And that was a lesson
mm,
that I learned later on in my marriage that I think is one of the reasons why we still married. Because otherwise, I would have blown up and this would have blown up.
okay.